Well, as we wrap up the season on turning fears into clients, which is essentially about sales, selling, your sales approach, your sales mindset, tips, tricks, etc., I can't let it go without doing an episode on AI. So I really want to give you as many tools as possible when it comes to selling what you do, prospecting, etc. I will be doing more content as far as my episodes on things around marketing, etc. But I really want to give you help with AI when it comes to sales. So that's what this episode is. I have 5 things that essentially prompts that you can use to help you work through, almost like in a linear process, help you really kind of get some clarity around your experience of sales, selling, etc. I think after you hear this episode and the 5 prompts that I'm going to give you, I think you'll even get some of your own ideas that fit much more of your personality and your target client. So that way you can adapt a lot of these prompts that I'll be giving you, because everybody's situation and everybody's business is a little bit different. I want to make sure that you're comfortable with it, that the tool that you're using is something that you're also comfortable with. Just as a side note on using AI, right now I use 4 different platforms to do any of my AI work using AI as a tool. ChatGPT, Grok, Gemini, Perplexity. Oh, I take that back, 5. And Claude. Okay. Well, 2 of those are kind of still open AI tools, but those are the ones that I use. And I have different reasons for using each one, different purposes, that is. And one of the things that I also have added to help with my using AI as a tool is I've created an AI style guide on my website. In most of these platforms, you can go into the settings and you can add any consistent guidance that you want on all your work. For example, for me, I have my own AI style guide that's on my site, and I just paste that URL in because it can read it. It's just text. And then I also have on my clients' sites, I have an AI style guide for them. That way, when I'm working on something for a client, I give them that style tone that has been developed in the brand. So it's a way to help cut out a lot of the rework and reprompting. I don't want my parameters to influence what I want to do for my clients. That's just how I use it. But when you're looking at your own work and your own business, have some parameters or boundaries. So AI knows your tone, knows what kind of responses that you're really looking for and things like that. I think that this is going to be a good way for you to help with your sales strategy, how you're looking at using AI in your selling. And it's kind of fun too, because it's like having an invisible partner that you can bounce ideas off of. You can research target markets and all kind of things. We're so lucky to have the AI platforms at our disposal to use as really powerful accelerators of what we're doing. But just remember, always keep that human element included. All right, let's give it a listen. Welcome to My Solopreneur Life. I'm Terry Pappy, your gracious host, and I am so glad you're here. I have a wonderful episode for you. Sit back, relax, and let's have some real talk about what it is to be a solopreneur. Okay, so I'm going to go through the 5 AI conversations every solopreneur should have, but probably isn't using. And I'm going to go through, so I'm going to basically state what the area is, because this is kind of how I have it organized. And then I'll give you examples of the prompts that you can use, right? So that way you can go through and try some out. And as I said in the intro, give yourself the opportunity to come up with some of your own. And a lot of these have you have to fill in the blank, kind of like what your project is or what your target client is. and be creative with that. See what you can find out. So I try to cover a lot of the areas from prospecting, getting your mindset. That's the first one, like getting your mindset in the right place before you go into doing any type of sales and pipeline development. And then I go through everything to follow up. So hopefully this is all 5 will hit on all those, kind of like spots during that whole sales experience. So let's go ahead and get started with number 1, which is the help me get me out of my own way, which is all about mindset. And this is a really good conversation. This benefits me because sometimes I used to be really bad at this, but I've gotten a lot better because just the nature of what I'm doing and how I love to talk to people has been so refined through the 20 years I've been doing this. But this always helps. Sometimes when I'm just not in the mood or I have a call coming up and I've had a busy day, this one can really help me. Before you pick up the phone or send that prospect email, have a conversation with AI about what's stopping you, or if you have some story running in your head about whatever. It could be just about this particular person. Go to your favorite AI tool and give it this prompt. I need to reach out to 10 people this week, or whatever the thing that's stopping you, put that in. But I'm telling myself they're too busy to hear from me. What's really going on here? And that's key. The what's really going on here is the thing that you really want to give it. And you can describe it or package it however you want. But ask AI what's really going on. And you'll get responses like, could it be this? Could it be that? Could it be this? And then you can continue to refine it, okay? Now, why this works, and you can try it a whole bunch of different ways, as I was saying, is it's like AI can be your pregame coach. It can help you identify the stories you're telling yourself and reframe them. It's like having a business therapist available 24/7 who won't judge you for the same recurring fear or mindset. Here's some real scenarios you can explore. Now, these are all the prompt examples I told you I was going to give you. Okay. 1, I feel like I'm bothering people when I follow up. Help me reframe this. That was a classic one of mine, especially for cold calling. Oh, it's terrible. Number 2, I'm afraid they'll say no. What's a healthier way to think about rejection? That's a good one for everybody, I think. Number 3, I don't want to sound desperate. How do I communicate value without being pushy? That's a good one. Yeah, nobody wants to feel salesy, right? Number 4, I keep comparing myself to competitors who seem more polished. What am I missing? The magic question to ask AI is, what would a confident version of me say to the fearful version of me right now? I like that. That was a cool one. Yeah. Okay, here's the second one. The who should I be talking to right now conversation, which is really about lead generation strategy. This is kind of like when you're like, well, I don't have any referrals right now and my pipeline's a little drying up, kind of where do I start? And so once you're mentally ready, AI helps you think strategically about filling your pipeline instead of randomly posting on social media and hoping someone notices, or sending out your newsletter and hoping people subscribe. All those tactics. This is a much better approach. So here's how the conversation should go. Share your current situation with AI, and this is where you can be really specific, and ask it to help you identify your next best prospects. And you can even describe some of the best clients that you've worked with, because I think that's really going to give it some framing. It's like, oh, I had this client and here's all their information and this is why it worked so well. That's a really great way to get some ideas. Now, here's some prompts that you can use. And try these out, and if you have some other ones that you want to work with, go for those, right? Create your own. This isn't like, a perfect science. It's AI, and AI is just a tool. All right, 1. I just finished a project with, describe a client, and be specific about a project you worked on that went really good. Who else might need similar help right now? That's a good one. Another one is, based on my expertise in, again, describe what you're really, really good at, or where you want more business. What industries or roles are likely dealing with related challenges, either that challenge or a related challenge? Okay, that's a good one. The third one is, I have capacity for 2 new clients. Given my background and ideal client profile, where should I focus my outreach this month? You can even like drill this down to like, how long will it take me? If it takes me normally, my sales cycle is 3 months from when I first meet somebody to when they actually sign a contract. That's another important thing that AI can help you figure out. Here's another one. I'm great at, like, if there's a service, like I'm a really good writer and I love strategizing. So you can bring it down to one service, because many of us solopreneurs can do a lot of different things, which is good. But we have to have that one service that we want to really excel at, and that's the one we want to talk about. So I'm great at that, whatever that service is, but my network is mostly a different industry. What adjacent markets might value this expertise? That's a good one. It'll help you kind of think outside of your box, right? So for me, I work with a lot of consultants and trainers and speakers and things like that, which are very, very service/relationship oriented. Well, what if there's a whole market that has people with those same needs, but I haven't even thought about it yet. And I actually haven't done this prompt. So I think I might take a look at that. Just stir things up, especially when you kind of get a little plateaued in your business. And you're like, oh God, do I have to work with another speaker or gym rat or person who does creative arts, whatever, fill in the blank, right? So it's a great way to kind of change things up when you're feeling a little tapped out on one particular type of client. For a deeper strategic conversation, you can use this prompt. This is just what I was talking about too, because I have a list of these. I want to move away from my current client type toward a new client type. And that could be a client, like, let's say, for example, you're getting a lot of deadbeats who either don't pay their bills or they don't have the budget. Well, you definitely want to move away from those because it's just a headache, right? I can remember years ago, I had a client that in the beginning, they were great. They were paying their bills and everything, give me a lot of work. And then toward the end, because they were having some business challenges, it was like pulling teeth to get them to keep paying me what they owed me. Anyway, this is the life of being a solopreneur, right? This is what we deal with. So anyway, I want to move away from current client type toward desired client type. What's a realistic bridge strategy? In other words, how do I make that transition? I don't have to change my whole brand or my whole service offering. How do I make that transition? Another one is my best clients come from X. Like for me, lately, it's been primarily referrals. They come from either existing clients, which is probably the greatest proportion, but I also get people who know me just generally, and then they're like, oh God, I'm ready for Terry now. How do I intentionally create more of those introductions? That's a really good one. Another one is I have these 3 types of services. Which one should I lead with to attract higher value clients? What's interesting about this one is in my business, I have 3 products and I design them a very specific way. They're linear, okay? They can be switched around depending on where the client is, but I design my business around having a very strong intro lead product, and that's my KISS marketing map. And you've heard me talk about that. If you're not using that approach, what I teach in my basically everything, and this is from P.S. Silva, Badass Your Brand, really great book. You want to consider looking at that. So you don't even have to ask AI this, but it's still a good question to run through the prompts. You're not asking AI to generate a list of names, and that's what feels icky and automated. You're using it as a strategic thinking partner to identify patterns in your best clients and kind of show you what you're doing in your business and find more people like them. At least it's pointing you in a new direction. And this is what I love about AI is it helps you think outside of your own brain because we become myopic. We only look at our own stuff. We have our own perceptions, our own mindsets, our own experiences that shape everything that's going on in our world. AI gives us the opportunity to open that up and create possibility and opportunities that we may have never, ever thought about. And that's what I love about it. That strategic thinking partner that helps you identify patterns in your projects, your clients, and helps you find more people like them. Or if you want to go in a new direction, then they'll help you find that. It's focused, intentional outreach, not spray and pray marketing. We all know what that is, right? That comes from a desperate energy. Now, the third one is it's the tell me about this person conversation, which is prospect research. So see how I kind of have these in a linear fashion? This is how we need to think about this and how AI can help us. Now that you know who to talk to, prepare for the actual conversation. And I'm going to compartmentalize this in LinkedIn, but you could probably lay this against your social media channel that you use or how you're preparing your content. When they have a solid LinkedIn presence, in other words, they're active, you can see that they've been posting things, that they've got a full profile. Paste their profile or website into your favorite AI tool and ask, what should I know about this person's business challenges based on their background? Or what questions should I ask them based on what they've shared publicly? And it's a little tricky because some people really don't do great LinkedIn profiles. So you have to kind of keep that in the back of your mind. Take it all with a grain of salt. Garbage in, garbage out, okay? When their LinkedIn is sparse, meaning they haven't really done a good about section, you can see by their posts that they don't really post. Their last post was like 5 years ago. It's outdated, it's non-existent, which is really common. This is where AI becomes even more valuable. Ask it to help you prepare based on what you do know. Some of the things you could say is, this person is a vice president at IBM. What are the typical challenges someone in this role faces? So it's still kind of broad, but it gives enough of a guidepost. You'd be surprised what you get from AI on that. Here's another one. I'm meeting with someone who runs a OEM factory for auto, okay? And they build gear shifts for particular auto types. They have minimal online presence. What questions should I ask to understand their business? That's another one. That helps you with your inquiry when you're on with someone who either you just met through networking and you really don't know. It can guide you through some really good questions when you just give it some very broad parameters, even if it's just industry. One of the things can be across basically agnostic is, how is AI affecting your business, affecting your industry, affecting your sales? That's a great question to ask anybody. In fact, I've incorporated into my KISS marketing map intake. Here's another one. Their LinkedIn hasn't been updated in 3 years. What does that tell me about how they might approach marketing, and how should I adjust my conversation or approach whatever it is they're putting out there, like their content, who they are as a brand, okay? So the reframe is essentially a sparse online presence is information. So if they have a really dated website, or if it looks incomplete, or it's non-existent. In the age of AI and the age of digital transformation and the technology we have at our fingertips and we can do anything, there are still companies that don't have a website. It boggles my mind. Okay. So as I was saying, a sparse online presence or a non-existent is information. It tells you they're likely not comfortable with either self-promotion, they don't have resources, or they're so strapped financially they just haven't been able to afford it. They're probably not getting leads from digital channels, and they might be relying heavily on referrals and relationships. Or they have a couple of anchor clients or customers that they just rely on to feed them. All of these things come into play when you really stop and think about what is your ideal client. Okay. Now, why this one works is you're not stalking them online. You're using AI to think strategically about what limited information actually reveals. You're preparing thoughtful questions, not trying to impress them with how much you know about them. I mean, how annoying is that when I still get this today, where people will go and they'll spend 2 seconds looking at my profile on LinkedIn, and they'll spend another 3 seconds looking at my company website, which is very robust, of course. And you can tell where they pick things out. Oh, you've been in business. Like I had one today. The guy said, you've been in business for 10 years. I'm like, no, I haven't. I was like, where did he even get that? And they paste this stuff, or they have their VA or whoever's doing it for them paste all this stuff. And next thing you know, you're like, you just went and scraped stuff and you're trying to show me that you know me? That is such crap. And people see right through it. So whatever you do, don't do that. Use AI to help you come up with thoughtful questions you can put into those cold DMs. And be honest. Be authentic, be honest. Say, listen, you look like similar to one of my current clients, but yet I don't know anything about your business. I would love to change that. Are you open to getting to know one another? I mean, that is a hell of a lot more friendly than, oh, I can see you've been in business for 10 years. How do you like working in the athletic industry? Or it's so stupid. It's so obvious. I'm sorry. I'm getting a little rantish there. Let's move on to the next one, which is number 4. Okay, now this is the help me understand what they really meant conversation. Now this is after, so we're on the other side of that first prospect call, or even your second, perhaps, if it's someone that's, if your sales cycle is kind of long and needs a bunch of conversations, this is a great one for that. So after your prospect call, whether it was the first one, second, or third, immediately talk to AI about what you heard. Don't let days go by while you second guess yourself, trying to remember, I think I said this. Now, this is why I talked in a previous episode about why I use Fathom to record all of my calls. And I tell the person that I'm talking with that I'm recording it, and then I will send them the recording so they have it too, but it's merely for my internal purposes. Now, what's nice about Fathom is, and no, I'm not getting a toaster because I'm pimping out Fathom. Zoom does this as well. It'll summarize the transcript. You'll have a transcript. Take that transcript and put it into AI. That's the purpose of that. You can tell it, this is what we talked about. What did I miss? This is what you want to take from it. Put into AI the conversation. They said X, but I'm wondering if they really meant Y. What are some of the ways I could follow up and address both possibilities? So here's a couple more prompts you can use for this one. All right. Here's what happened on the call, and then you paste your transcript. What did I miss, or what should I be thinking about? That's a pretty straightforward one, right? Another one is, they seemed hesitant when I mentioned budget. What might be behind that hesitation? Another one is, they asked about timeline 3 times. What's the real concern there? And that can lead you to some follow-up when you do your follow-up. Notice you were really concerned about timeline. Are there mitigating circumstances that may bring that into play? For me, I would address that on the call, right? You don't want to let those things slip. That's why it's so important to really carefully listen. Another one is, the call felt positive, but they didn't commit to next steps. They didn't make a decision. I'm always saying, get them to make a decision, even if it's to schedule another call. How should I interpret that? Because that's when our bias comes in, right? We'll probably misinterpret it. So AI can help us think a little more objectively. Why this all works is you process faster and catch things you might have missed in the moment. You're not second guessing yourself for days before following up. You can move while the conversation is still fresh. And that's why you got to do it right away. Make sure when you have these calls that you give yourself buffer after to go ahead and put that together, because that'll help your follow-up, which leads me to number 5, which is the make this sound like me conversation, which is refining your follow-up. And I just did this the other day because I had a great call and we made a decision about next steps, and he was ready to buy. And I didn't want to just send him a link to the page where he buys stuff. He still needed to have a conversation with his business partner and so on. Every one of these follow-ups is going to be very unique. Now that you're ready to follow up, you want to make sure your message lands well. Okay, so the conversation is, draft your follow-up email naturally and then ask, keep my tone, but make this more concise and clear. And I always like to add positive. Like, I like to get my prospects excited about the idea of working with me. So I always kind of add that to my AI prompts. Or you could say, does this address their concern about timeline or whatever it is they brought up, without being pushy or a little too like running a sales script? Like, I heard you say this. Does that mean that? You don't want to make any indication that you're running some sort of script or something like that. So here's a few prompts that you could give AI in regards to your follow-up. So for example, if you drafted something and you feel like it's a little too salesy, like, I have a problem being too passive when it comes to asking people to work with me or to transact. You can go online and buy this here, and I usually dance around that. So that's kind of how I ask AI, help me not dance around this and be more focused on not transactional, but be purposeful in this message. Another one is like, I drafted this, but it feels too salesy. Help me soften it while staying confident. Whatever you're thinking, it feels too X to me. Help me improve it while staying confident. Another one is, does this proposal email answer their questions or am I missing something? That's a good one that sometimes even if we look over a transcript or listen to the recording again, we could still not hear it. It's pretty weird how the brain works. If you missed it the first time, you might miss it again. That's why we always had a proofreader. And this first job out of college was working for a type house, and we would just type galleys of text to go to the ad agencies to paste into advertising. And we had to hire a proofreader because if we typed it and we proofed it, we would very much miss a lot of the mistakes that we made. But if we had a proofreader who was clean coming into it, never dealt with the content, they would always catch just about everything. So there was a huge percentage of improvement when we had someone else looking at that. That's actually a great story that goes along with this. It's just how it works. Another one is, I want to check in, but I don't want to be annoying. That's one of mine, being a bother. What's a value add way to follow up? That's a good one. And then another one that I do notoriously is I write too much. I'm like, and then do this. It's like I'm trying to take care of them with all my copy. And so here's a good one for that. This feels too long. What's the essential message here? And so why all this works is you stay authentic, but you sharpen your communication. You're really being of service to that prospect. You're not using AI to write for you. You're using it to think with you. The voice is still yours. It's just clearer. And boy, I tell you what, that really helps me sometimes when I get all la, and I just go and I'm typing. Sometimes I think I type because like I write these long things because I just love to type. It's crazy. So the complete arc is it takes you from the empty pipeline to a closed deal. Okay, so all 5 of these, remember how I said in the beginning? So the first one, like mindset, clear your head so you can show up confidently. Strategy, identify who you should actually be talking to. Research, prepare thoughtful questions for the conversation. Make sure that your probing is deliberate and intentional. Processing, understand what really happened in that conversation and what you should do next. And then finally, the follow-up, communicate clearly and authentically. And you want to be consistent with that too. Here's the deal. AI isn't about automation or sounding like a robot. It's about having a thinking partner available whenever you need one to help you do relationship-first sales better and faster. Well, I know you're disappointed, but that's it for this episode. Listen, the great news is there's another one coming, so stay tuned. Anyway, I just want to make sure that you do the prompt. If this episode had a prompt and you get that homework done because you're going to be a better solopreneur. How's that for a maternal finger shaking at you? Hey, listen, thanks so much for being here, for giving me time of your day, and, for taking it on. So if you want to learn more and stay connected with me, just head on over to mysolopreneurlife.com. Thanks a bunch. See you soon. That was pretty good. I think I'll keep that one. Bye.